Good morning, Zoe. The Trouble with Till Trumble is our book today. Story by Lynn Manuel, pictures by Diane Greenseid. Are you ready? This one's pretty cute, and it has some puppy dogs in it. So what sound does a dog make? Good job. Okay, you're gonna have to do that a lot this book. Okay, are you ready? Set. Go. In a house at the end of Potato Peel Lane, there lived an old woman who loved chairs. Tilly Trumble never had more than a few pennies to rub together, but every week she put on her fancy hat and her sturdy shoes, and off she went to make up the rounds of the yard sales, flea markets, and swap meets, looking for old chairs that other folks were chucking out. She bought home broken down old chairs that were on their last legs, lumpy, flowered old plump chairs that sagged and dipped, springs peeking through, old chairs that wiggled and wobbled and faded in the sun, old chairs that puffed and groaned and wheezed. Down the lane Tilly would come, pulling an old chair behind her, with all the neighbors rolling their eyes and shaking their heads as she went by. "Now, Tilly Trumble," they would say, "what do you want with another four-legged, scruffy old thing like that?" But Tilly never gave a fig what they had to say. Tilly thought she was very lucky to live in a house spilling over with chairs, all of them holding out their arms, inviting her to cozy up in their laps. Zoe, can you reach out your arms? Reach your arms up high. Almost like you want a hug. So arms out. Great work. But sometimes when she was sitting in the old chair with the tassel cushions that didn't match, she would stare at the empty spot by the fire, and the only spot in the whole house that was bare. Tilly could never find just the right chair to fill the empty place. There were times when she thought a moth-eaten old chair with cinnamon-colored polka dots would do nicely, and other times when she thought a scratched-up old rocking chair with a cracked back might be better. But no, it couldn't be just any old thing. It had to be a four-legged, scruffy old thing that was really something else. And then one day, when Tilly came home from a chucking out sale, she found an unexpected visitor on her porch, plunked down in one of her stuffing, poking out old chairs. And Tilly didn't like it. Not one bit. "I see you've made yourself quite comfortable," she said. And that plunked down, scruffy old dog just gave his tail a little wag, as if to say he was quite comfy indeed. "Thank you very much." Okay, so are you ready? We got to make a dog sound. So what sound does a dog make? Awesome. We're going to have to do that a couple more times. "Scoot," said Tilly, and then scat. But that scruffy old dog did not scoot, and that scruffy old dog did not scat. So Tilly went into the house, and she gave the door a slam. But that night, just as Tilly was drifting off to sleep, she heard wind whistling in the caves, and she found herself wondering if that dog was shivery. And the more she wondered about it, the more she tossed and turned, until finally she got out of bed and let that scruffy old dog come in and out of the cold. "Oh, just for tonight," she said, wagging a finger at him. The next morning, as soon as Tilly got up and about, that scruffy old dog went out and fetched the newspaper from behind the raspberry bushes. "Kazo, what sound does a dog make? What sound does Cricket make? Or Baxter used to make?" "Great. You stop that right now," said Tilly. "Do not try to butter me up." And without another word, she marched into the kitchen and made breakfast, with too many sausages. When the dog was finished, every last one, Tilly opened the door and flapped her arms up and down. "Okay, Zoe, you gotta move your arms up and down. Move your arms up and down, up and down. Yeah, like you're trying to shoo the dog away. "Shoo," she said, "you cannot stay here. I do not want a pet." But as Tilly stood there flapping, the scruffy old dog sat down and put out his paw to shake hands. "How funny you are," said Tilly. She gave the matter some thought and decided that perhaps he could stay until supper time. Then, of course, he would have to be on his way. But when supper time came, the creaky old kitchen chair, the one with the oopsie-daisy stains all over it, held out its arms and invited that dog to sit on its lap. And when he did, Tilly had no choice but to add more meat to her stew. After supper, Tilly put on her fancy hat and her sturdy shoes, and off she went to tack up posters around the neighborhood, asking the owner of a scruffy old dog to come fetch him lickety-split. That dog, of course, went right along with her. "Now, that's really something," said one of the neighbors. "That's something else," said another neighbor. The weeks went by, and nobody came to fetch the scruffy old dog. Okay, what sound does a dog make? Good. In time, Tilly got used to his company. Sometimes they made the rounds of the yard sales, flea markets, and swap meets together, looking for just the right chair for the spot by the fire. Sometimes they sat outside in the old porch chairs, and Tilly showed that dog her scrapbook filled with tufts of stuffing and bits of old fabric from old chairs that used to be and weren't anymore. And sometimes they just sat and watched the stars come out. Every now and again, Tilly would look at the scruffy old dog and say, "I shan't give you a name. No point to it, you know. Just a matter of time before I send you on your way." And then one Sunday, the dog went out to fetch the paper. He was gone before Tilly could stop him, and that was a shame, because the paper wasn't delivered on Sundays. All morning, Tilly waited for him to come back. First, she waited by the front window in the old wing chair, the one with the buttons hanging down from loops. Then she sat on the porch in the threadbare, satiny old chair with the zigzaggy splits in it, and waited some more. And then, for the longest time, she waited by the front gate in the propped-up old wooden chair with the missing leg. Finally, she put on her fancy hat and her sturdy shoes, and she set off to find that scruffy old dog. She walked up the street. She walked up one street and down another. She looked that way and this way. When she passed a yard sale, a lady wearing jangly earrings called out, "Would you be interested in a moth-eaten old chair with cinnamon-colored polka dots?" "No, thanks," said Tilly. "I'm looking for something else." At a flea market on the corner, a man with a cane said, "I can give you a good deal on a scratched-up old rocking chair with a cracked back." "No, thanks," said Tilly. "I'm looking for something else." But that scruffy old dog was nowhere to be seen. When it got very late, Tilly turned around and started home. "I don't mind," she told herself. "That scruffy old dog has long overstayed his welcome, and now I shall have plenty of stew left over for tomorrow." When Tilly opened the front gate, she stopped and blinked in surprise. There, by the door, was the scruffy old dog. What sound do you think the dog made, Zoe? Yeah, that's perfect. And beside him was a newspaper, a long-forgotten newspaper tossed under somebody's shrubs ages ago. And Tilly knew that scruffy old dog must have searched all day to find it. As he put out his paw to shake hands, Tilly held out her arms instead. "Okay, ready? Put out your arms. Gotta put out your arms for a big hug. Put your arms up so. Good." And when he jumped into her lap, she hugged him and hugged him and hugged him. "You really are something else," she said. "And something else is just what I shall call you." Zoe, what's the name of your puppy? She realized right then and there that she had found just the right four-legged, scruffy old thing to fill the empty spot by the fire. And now, in a house at the end of Potato Peel Lane, there lives an old woman who loves chairs almost as much as she loves something else. Great book, so thanks for reading with me.